I have once again had a change of plans in FPL and I am activating my free hit in game week 31. All will be explained, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe and let's get right into the video. So this was weirdly actually my best game week of the season. I mean, it was my second highest game week rank, but my highest game week rank I used a triple captainship, so it doesn't really count. And looking at my team here, I did not expect my game week rank to be that high at all. But when you think about it, I had a lot of very low owned players that did well. I bet against the high owned template players that all blanked, so it kind of makes sense. I just wish Timber managed to stay on and keep that clean sheet because my god, if I got those extra 5 points, mate, no one would be safe. I would be cruising. I mean, I can't complain too much because obviously nearly everything went right for me this game week. I can't complain about one little thing that went wrong. The odds of everything going right is very small. So at the end of the day, I am more grateful than anything. So Timber, I'll let you off this one time. My differential Gordon that I brought in 3 game weeks ago is the hero. He's been so good for me since I brought him in. I didn't think he'd be doing this well. I mean, he's not done sensational. In fact, he could have scored one more goal for me playing against Man United. He scored once. He could have maybe scored twice. But, you know, once again, beggars can't be choosers. He was a great differential this week. In fact, my safety score was 11 points. If Gordon got 0 points, I would still have a green arrow, only just. That just goes to show how good my game week was. I just got a free 11 pointer from a player almost nobody owns. But soon, everybody is going to be bringing him in because he's got a good fixture run and he's on some good form. But Gordon was not the only low owned player I had to be sensational for me this week. The Bruggen 7 pointer was great, especially since Sunderland went 1-0 up, then had their goal disallowed. I will not complain about that. Gabriel getting a high score doesn't matter too much because everybody has him. Same with Thiago. He's a little less owned than Gabriel, but still very high owned. Dango Uwatara getting 1 assist and 3 bonus points for the 8 pointer was huge. A very low owned player, a big differential for me, along with Bruno Fernandes as my captain. At my rank, his effective ownership was 130%, which meant he was still a small differential, definitely far from high owned, so his points were a massive help. And the rest of the team was pretty much essentially kitted out with blanks, which is why I was surprised my game week rank was so high. But once again, like I said, when every single one of those threats to your rank, aside from David Raya, who wouldn't have been a threat if Timber just managed to be my double Arsenal defence, but anyway, I'm done complaining about that. When all those high threats don't return, you're almost guaranteed a green arrow when a 1% effective ownership player like Gordon decides to come through and bag an 11 pointer for scoring just 1 goal. I'm very thankful. Anyway, that's enough for last game week. Let's take a look at how we are lining up for game week 31. Aside from the fact this team is actually not my game week 31 team, this is what it would look like with no transfers made. But as you can tell by the intro and the title, I am using my free hit. As for my plans and my future chip strategy, you can see in the top left here, my chips remaining after this game week will be wildcard and bench boost. Now I am going to make a future transfer plans video after this game week. I don't want to compress it all into this one video because there's way too much to talk about and I'm not exactly in a rush to get it out because we have 3 weeks until game week 32. That is such a huge break that I'm not looking forward to. So I may as well just save it for after this deadline, make it after game week 31 before game week 32 because there's a lot to talk about. All you need to know right now is I'm on free hit 31. As for my wildcard and my bench boost, I'm actually still not fully decided, so I will talk about it in a future video. I'm using the free hit on this team because it's such a bad game week to make transfers. I don't want to make any long-term transfers. It could be a bad use of my free transfers because, first of all, Chalobah, is he going to play or not? I don't know. Timber, obviously he's not going to play game week 31, but is he going to be available for game week 32? Because if he is, I'm going to want to keep him. If he's not, then I'm going to want to sell him, but I just won't know before the game week 31 deadline. It is frustrating. Now, I can field a full 11 without taking a hit, so it may seem a little extreme to actually be using it for this game week when I don't really need it. And that's true, I did consider that. I may just be sacrificing an okay game week for a really good game week when I should be sacrificing a really bad game week for a really good game week. But looking at game week 34, if I use my free hit now, I should be fine. I should be able to field a full 11, if not a full 10-man squad without a goalkeeper, just fine in game week 34 without taking a hit. And that is much better for me because my players with the fixtures in game week 34 look great compared to the fixtures here when my players are playing away to Leeds, for example. That's not good. Like I said, Chalobah may not even play. I'm having to field Esteve. All of these options are quite bad and I want some better ones. Not to mention, Fulham and Newcastle are teams I want to target. I've got 1 Newcastle player and 0 Fulham players. I want 3 of each. So let's jump in and take a look at the free hit team I am going to use for game week 31. Now, we're going to go through this player by player and it's 90% confirmed. I did want Salah in this team, but I'm recording this just after the European games and it turns out he went off injured. If I get some team news on the Friday press conferences, finding out that Salah is going to be okay and he is going to start, then I will bring him in over a different Liverpool attacker. I'll spoil it now. It's Ekitike. I've got Ekitike in this team. If I find out Salah is fit, Ekitike will go to the bench and Salah will come into this team. That will be the only difference. As for everything else, it should probably stay the same. Hopefully, I am quite indecisive, but I'm pretty set on this free hit team despite only changing my mind very recently. And I will post my team before the deadline on YouTube as a post and on Twitter to let you guys know my final decisions. Let's pull up the defense first. In goal, we have Ramsdale, who is apparently the starting keeper for Newcastle. I thought it was Pope. Last time I checked he was. But in the last 3 or 4 games for Newcastle, 2 in the Prem and 2 in the Champions League, Ramsdale seems to be the favourite, which kind of shocked me. I don't know why. I don't know if Pope's coming back from an injury or something. So right now I've got Ramsdale. If it turns out I'm being silly and Pope is actually the one to start, I'll probably change it around. But like I said, I'll post my team on Twitter and on YouTube before the deadline, so you know exactly what it looks like. We also double up on that Newcastle defence with Thiaw. He's good for defcons, good for goal threat, and like I said, has such an amazing defensive fixture. Sunderland are really bad for expected goals. They sit 19th across the entire season, and in the last 8 games, meaning the Newcastle defence is perfect for this game week. We also have Calvin Bassey. Now, he's not Anderson or Robinson, who are the 2 popular Fulham defenders, but Bassey is probably the best set piece threat for Fulham right now, which is why I've gone for him. He's not going to get defcons like Anderson. He's not going to be whipping in crosses like Robinson, but Bassey could be the man to score for Fulham in this game week. And I figure, you know what? It's a 1-week punt. Why not go for a defender who's a set piece threat against a team like Burnley, who cannot defend set pieces to save their lives? Then we have a defender who kind of only has an average fixture in Van Dijk. Now, there's a few reasons why I'm picking Van Dijk despite his mediocre fixture. Right, first off, his ownership is very high. He's very scary to go without. He's hurt my rank a lot already this last month. I don't want it to happen again. He also has good goal threat, you know. His underlying data, very strong. Watch the transfer tips video if you don't believe me. It looks good. He's also very good for defcons. But more importantly, Brighton in the last 5 game weeks, they've shifted a bit. They went from a team that was like decent offensively, but not too great defensively, to a team that's really tightened up at the back, but sacrificed a lot of offensive threat for it. I think in the last 8 game weeks I checked, they were either 3rd or 4th for expected goals conceded, up there with Liverpool and Arsenal, which is really strong. I did not expect it, so fair play to Brighton. You've given me a reason to choose Van Dijk in my FPL free hit. Okay, let's go into that midfield and look at my double Fulham attack. We have Iwobi and Wilson, the 2 obvious picks from this team. I like Raul Jimenez, but he only plays 60 minutes max before getting subbed off. It's happened in all of the last 4 games. Oscar Bob also looks quite promising, but Iwobi and Wilson have better underlying data, on better form, and they're more reliable for minutes, so it makes sense to choose these 2. Both of them easily have the best offensive fixture this game week. Burnley are 20th for expected goals conceded, and it's not even close to 19th place. There is 10 expected goals difference. Their defense is abysmal, and I need these guys to pull through and get me some nice differential points. Well, Wilson's not a differential, but Iwobi definitely is. So if I could choose either one of these 2 players to do well, I would hope it's Iwobi, but I feel like it's more likely to be Wilson. But either way, I'll be happy. Hopefully, they can both get me some points. We have the captain of this team, Bruno Fernandes. Not the most sensational fixture, and I know Bournemouth have been keeping clean sheets, but their defensive data is not strong. If you watched my last video where I analysed the captains, you will see why Bruno is such a great pick. Bournemouth are 19th for set-piece goals conceded, which is Bruno's bread and butter for assists. You know, all those corners, all those free kicks. He's also on penalties and on the form of his life. He just cannot stop. So Bruno for me is easily the best captain. Maybe I'm carrying some bias because I'm a Man United fan, but I actually feel like I'm thinking quite objectively here. Perma captain Bruno is completely fine. Don't be afraid to do it. But if you're not a huge fan of the option, Wilson is easily the next best bet. And the final midfielder we have is Anthony Gordon. In a special group of 4 players in this free hit team, 4 players who were in my old Game Week 31 team before the free hit. Another one of those players being Bruno. The other two are in the front three. Now, Gordon, once again, super easy fixture, on great form, on penalties. I'm very happy to have owned him. It's going to upset me because I know loads of people are going to bring him in and he won't be my differential anymore. But, you know, that's the curse of being ahead of the game before everyone else, you know. It's just the way it is. Into the front three now, we have two more players from my old team in Thiago and Ekitike. Now, I kind of wanted to choose Salah over Ekitike, but it wasn't an easy choice. Like, I was sat there thinking this afternoon, earlier before the Champions League games got played, do I pick Salah or do I pick Ekitike? Solanke drifted into my mind and I told myself to stop being stupid, so don't worry, I'm not going there anymore. So that decision was quite tough, and I was quite reluctant to go with Salah, even though I believed he was the better option. So to find out he may be a minute's risk, yeah, it's annoying, but it kind of makes my decision-making process a little bit easier. So Ekitike is here, he's fine. Away to Brighton, like I said, it's not great. You know, they're doing well defensively, but Ekitike's ownership is high, the Liverpool attack is strong, and there's no other real good forward options. Like, Watkins looks kind of cool, but West Ham are on really good form. You have Dom Solanke, who's playing home to Forest, a really good fixture, and Tottenham need the points, but Tottenham look absolutely terrible. Meaning I'm going with Ekitike. It's definitely more of a safe option than risky option, which I don't normally like going with, but sometimes you just got to play it smart. In fact, picking forwards in FPL right now is kind of boring. In my last transfer tips video for Game Week 31, I said there were only 4 good forwards to own, one being Haaland, who is not in the team, and the rest is this front three right here. They're all super high owned, and I'm not even joking, they all have ownership of at least 70%. It's stupid. Like, I don't know why so many people own them. I guess it's because everyone's running a front three and every other forward kind of sucks. And I don't understand how all these forwards have such high ownership, along with Haaland. Like, there's only 3 forward slots in the game. How does everyone own every single one of these forwards? It doesn't make any sense. Either way, these guys, Thiago, Pedro, and Ekitike, we may as well talk about them all at the same time. If they do well, yeah, cool. It's good. Like, it doesn't hurt me. But I wouldn't jump up and scream about it, because at the end of the day, their effective ownership at my rank is so high that their points they mean very little amounts to me. Whereas a player like Gordon scoring or a player like Iwobi scoring would be so valuable because almost no one has them. With this front three, it's just, I'll take it, you know. So it kind of keeps my emotions a little low. The adrenaline is low this game week, but there are some super differentials here. And at the end of the day, I don't want to use my free hit to go super risky just for these 3 players to, you know, all score a brace while I don't own them. It's just not worth the risk. So this is the team I'm going to use. Once again, I'm 95% locked in. Could go to Salah, could change my mind because I'm quite indecisive, but I think it will stay the same, and I will post my team before the deadline. Now, looking at the odds, it sort of backs up why I've used this free hit chip. Fulham and Newcastle are the teams to target. Predicted most of the goals scored and predicted highest likelihood of a clean sheet. Fair enough, that's only because Arsenal aren't playing, but I'll take it. We also have my captain playing for the team who is 3rd for predicted goals, so the odds are looking good for me. I can't say I disagree with a lot of it. I do think the Liverpool clean sheet odds at 25% are quite low. I feel like they could be higher. I feel like that's a little unfair, especially with the way Brighton have been lining up recently. It seems like they're not as good defensively going forward, while the Liverpool defensive data is quite strong. I'll tell you what though, I am quite surprised to see Aston Villa 4th in both metrics. Don't get me wrong, home to West Ham on paper is a good fixture, but Aston Villa are coming onto some awful form. In fact, they've already come onto this awful form, whereas West Ham are the exact opposite. They are flourishing right now. They look unstoppable. They just took a point against Man City. They're looking strong. So to see Aston Villa so high doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Even seeing Spurs that high for clean sheet odds just seems ridiculous. I mean, the people making these odds, right? Normally I agree with them. Okay, I do. They do well. I don't know if it's just an algorithm or what. It's probably just an algorithm, you know, some made up guy I've got in my head. But has he been watching Spurs recently? I think he hasn't. You know, if he was, then he would know Spurs have less than a 10% chance of keeping a clean sheet, even if they played home to Grimsby Town. You know, it's not looking good for them. As for everything else on here is kind of irrelevant in my opinion. Pretty much pick players from Fulham and Newcastle if you can. If not, just pick good players who have an average fixture, which is what I believe I have done on this free hit. I don't love it, like it's not amazing, but I do think it's the best possible team for this game week. All I can do is hope I get a green arrow. You know, if I deploy this free hit and it gets me a red arrow, I'm going to be gutted and I'm going to feel like I've made the wrong choice. Especially if players I've free hitted out manage to get returns, that will sting. So free hit, please make sure I've made the right choice. Don't screw me over. Anyway, guys, that is it from me. Let me know what you think of the team down in the comments. Let me know about your transfers for this game week as well. If you made it this far, you are greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. And I will see you all in the next video.